Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Gland Bodybuilding. Sorry guys, I just got to interrupt here. There's going to be some really great information in this video, so I don't want you to scroll through the whole thing. Just make sure you watch it. But at the same time, I'm going to have a special guest at the end to give his opinion on what I said about the triceps. And I don't really agree with his opinion, but just, yeah, make sure you tune in at the end as well, because he's going to give some advice that he thinks is relevant. So, you know, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I guess we'll find out. Mountain. And today I want to share with you a triceps exercise that I'm doing that is one of my new favorite tricep exercises, because it is something that I do at home. And it's an exercise that a lot of powerlifters do, or at least the Louis Simmons guys at Westside Barbell, they do this exercise, except for the way I'm doing it is on a bench instead of on the floor. So what it is basically a French curl, but as you're lowering the weight, you bring the elbows up above, so you're still doing full range of motion around the elbow, but because you're lifting that elbow like this, you're changing the direction of the force. And so therefore you get full range of motion, but it takes a little bit of the stress off the elbows. And then when you come forward with the elbow again, then you straighten up. So the normal way to do a French curl is to come straight down, you know, whatever range of motion you're using, and then come straight up. Now, if you come all the way down, because the force is coming directly towards your head, the elbows are in an impinged sort of position. But when you bring them like this, you bring them up towards the top of the head, what happens, it takes a little bit of stress off that area, but still allows you to get that full range of motion. So the reason why I'm trying this out and enjoying it actually is because I am noticing that it's really isolating a lot of the triceps. So the tricep is hitting failure first rather than the shoulders or some other area. And I do notice that if I keep my elbows up here and then extend and bend, that's still great. It's a great long head sort of tricep exercise, but I'm not really getting a lot of the tricep by the elbow. And sometimes because I'm holding my arm isometrically in this position, sometimes you get a little bit of the internal rotator cuff that comes into play, or fatigue sometimes. So by doing the movement this way, at least once in a while, I notice that my triceps are hitting failure first and foremost, and nothing else. You got to experiment constantly. And that's something I always encourage you to do, because there's some movements that you might not understand why they work, but if you try them out, you might discover that they work, but you might not know why at the time, but later on it will become apparent to you. And not a dad or a mom, but just a parent, not a parent. In case you misunderstood what I was saying there. So this movement I actually absolutely totally love. So one of the things about training triceps is that I had a little bit of an issue actually really isolating the triceps, getting the squeeze as well as a good range of motion on a lot of different movements. And that was exacerbated obviously because of the dislocating shoulder injury I have from hockey and stuff. I don't have any pain or anything like that, but sometimes isolating certain muscle groups becomes a bit of a challenge when you have a certain area that's a bit unstable or unstable. But the funny thing is that the way I do this movement also plays a role in using a tiny bit of momentum. So remember, I've talked about sometimes using a bit of momentum in your movements can help you break through a certain sticking point and get a better squeeze and more muscle activation instead of less. And I know that goes against a lot of the common sort of doctrine on the internet, where people are like, oh, everything has to be strict. Well, sometimes being strict causes other muscles to fatigue long before the one that you want to hit fatigues. So that's another neat part about this movement. And the other one is that I can do a more extreme range of motion, but because my elbows are changing position and the force is going up and down, when my elbows are pointed towards the ceiling and the force is going down, there's a lot of force or shearing force on the elbows. But when I put the upper arm like this above my head, then there's less shearing force in the elbow, but I'm getting a larger range of motion because I can still bend the arm quite a bit. So what I'm doing is I'm strengthening up that weak point as well as making sure I get a full range all the way up and getting a good squeeze by using a tiny bit of that momentum to move up. So I'll show you. So in slow motion, right? So I come down like this, and then usually a skull crusher is like this. I can come down like this, and then sometimes people will do this with the elbows and then they come up, right? And you could do this, but there's no question that once you start to use heavier weight, it'll be pretty hard on the elbows or have a lot more shearing force. But when I do this and then bring the elbows back and up, I have that extra range of motion, less shearing force, And at the same time, I can use this momentum to make sure I could squeeze those triceps as well. And I noticed that I get a way better pump and a way better amount of muscular fatigue in the overall tricep everywhere. So therefore, I'm getting better tricep activation from this, which again, you know, the super strict police would say, oh no, you're not. But this was a movement that was used by a lot of powerlifters in the West Side Barbell as well, except they do it on the ground and they hit the dumbbell on the ground and then come up, because triceps play a huge role in bench press strength. So usually I do 3 or 4 sets to failure, and I keep the rep ranges above 15 reps because I am using a full range of motion around that elbow. I don't want to inflame the elbow by using too much weight, which is something that a lot of people do with isolations. They tend to try to do the 5 rep set or the 6 rep set with isolation movements, and then they start tweaking the joints. So I usually save those heavy type of rep ranges for my compound lifts like squats and, you know, the bent over rows and the bench presses and so forth. And the isolation movements, I do tend to stick with higher rep ranges. And this is, and of course this is based on the individual. I mean, you can experiment depending on which isolation you're doing with some heavier weight, but always do so with some caution, because when you put all that stress on one muscle group primarily around one joint, the stress doesn't have a way to dissipate in one direction or another if something goes out of alignment or out of whack, right? Whereas with compound movement like bench press, if you feel your shoulder getting kind of tweaked, then you can kind of push a little bit more with the tricep and so forth, and you can avoid an injury that way. But with isolations, it's not quite so easy, especially isolations like preacher curls, and I've warned you guys about that one before. So this is my new favorite triceps exercise right now. One of my other favorites is just heavy tricep press downs. Tricep press downs are a great movement, but a lot of times with the tricep press down, a lot of people get obsessed with doing them super strict, but sometimes I find just going caveman on that bitch is actually better at doing super heavy and just trying to stress the triceps as much as possible. Even if you do bring in some of the internal rotators and stuff, just hanging on to that heavy weight and putting that stress on those triceps seems to work pretty good. Of course, I always stick to over 10 reps in the tricep press down as well, but that's my other favorite exercise for triceps right now. I mean, that does change though. In the future, I'll probably be talking to you about a new triceps exercise that's my favorite, but right now, this is what I'm doing. And yeah, I don't have to explain myself to you. Motion. It's always good to get other people's opinions though. You know, sometimes, you know, somebody else might have a better suggestion of what their favorite triceps exercise is. I think somebody's coming right now. Hey man, hey, what's up?
You talking about triceps over here? You talking about triceps? I got some tricep exercise for you. Oh yeah, this thing on? That's right. Yeah, I don't do triceps. Triceps are for people that need to try. I don't need to try. I succeed in any time I'm doing any sort of muscle group. So you guys, if you need to do your triceps and the try hard kind of steps, you don't know what you're doing. If you're a real man, there is no try, there's just do. So yeah, do I have a favorite triceps exercise? No, triceps exercise are for losers because I am a winner. I don't do triceps. Yeah.
That was interesting. I guess this video was a waste of time. Thanks for watching. Probably just gonna go kill myself. All right, guys. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgalantbodybuilding.com, and thanks to the page supporters, and take care for now. I'm gonna find a new place to film. This place has been compromised.
Oh yeah.